Well, hello everybody. Again, it's me, Justice, and welcome back to the Takeover. We got a very cool topic for you today. We're going to be talking about testimonies and how they can influence others around you. So, with that out of the way, Justice, go ahead and play the intro. Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to the Takeover. As usual, in the last couple episodes, my name is Justice, and I will be your host today. And I'm not claiming to be better than the butter you put on your French toast, but I sure am trying my best every day to at least meet that goal. So, we have a very special show for you today. We have two special guests coming here, but before we get into all of that, let me tell you something, okay? See, some of y'all got a real problem, but let me just say, my thoughts are my thoughts, okay? And our special guests' thoughts are their thoughts, okay? Please, because we're not speaking on behalf of Kingdom Heaven Ministries or KHM or Dr. Brown, or I realized that Dr. Brown or Lady Fran or Minister Brown or whoever. This is us, okay? And if you got a problem, all right, we can talk about it in a civil manner, okay? All right. So, our intro scripture, we have to have that Big Mac of word. We've been having so much bread in the last couple weeks. It's been amazing. But we're going to start with the top one here. And that is coming out of Matthew chapter 15, verses 20 through 22 through 28. 20 through. All right, here we go. 22 says, a Gentile woman who lived there came to Jesus, pleading, have mercy on me, O Lord, Son of David. For my daughter is possessed by a demon that torments her severely. But Jesus gave her no reply, not even a word. Then his disciples urged him to send her away. Tell her to go away, they said. She is bothering us with all her begging. Then Jesus said to the woman, I was sent only to help God's lost sheep, the people of Israel. But she came and worshipped him, pleading again, Lord, help me. Jesus responded, it isn't right to take food from the children and throw it to the dogs. She replied, that's true, Lord, but even dogs are allowed to eat the scraps that fall beneath their master's table. Verse 20 says, dear woman, Jesus said to her, your faith is great. Your request is granted. And her daughter was instantly healed. Wow. So let me just, that is a powerful account. All right. So what that means, and we're not going to get into all the nitty gritty deepness of that scripture. I can preach a whole sermon on that, but I'm not. Okay. What we can get from that this week is that healing belongs to the children. And you have to remember that there's an end while you're going through your test. See, tests and trials are going to come. So let's talk about this test a little bit further. Going in our spiritual dictionary, words in a different light. What is test? Actually, it's kingdom test. It's not dark test, because there is no such thing as a dark test unless you're in school. Anyways, kingdom test is a trial, examination, suffering, or trouble. The definition is an examination of your accumulated knowledge, courage, or faith to reveal its resilience, resolve, or resolution for the expansion and advancement of the kingdom of God and for experiencing the enjoyment of a kingdom lifestyle. Wow. Examination. When you hear that word, I know it brings back memories of high school, final exams. But it's an examination of all the knowledge you've accumulated, your courage, and your faith. Tests are testing your faith, your courage, to reveal how strong it is. And at the end of a test, you can only get stronger. And it's building up your courage, your faith, and your knowledge so that you won't fall into the same trap you did next time. Hopefully, you won't fall into the same trap next time. And these tests are super important because they build up your faith and your courage so that when the next test comes, or when the next trial comes, or when this happens and that happens, and all of this stuff happens, you know you've been through it already, so you know how to get to the other side. All you got to do is just punch it. You know what I'm saying? Give a little Rocky action. You didn't know I knew that. See, you didn't know I knew. See, all right. Marcellus is laughing at me in the back. All right. Well, today we're going to focus on COVID, and it's been just ravaging our country. Everywhere you go, it seems like it's spread its influence everywhere. And it's a big deal. Countries are shutting down, businesses are shutting down because of this virus. It's a big deal. It's killed, I don't know how many people, thousands of people. I don't know, maybe millions at this point. And so, and of course, we're not going to just focus on, what they dealt with, because that's important too. But what I really want to get at is how they overcame this virus, how they overcame this sickness. Because it says in the Bible, and I may be quoting somebody when I say this, but it says, by his stripes we are healed. Healing is the children's bread, as we have learned. So, what is this healed? Kingdom healed. So we tried to look for healing in words in different light, and it wasn't there. But I think it's because we already have healing. We're always in the process of healing, but that's not how we should see it. We should see ourselves at the finish line already. So kingdom healed is having eternal authority, liberating and energizing your design. Kingdom healed is being regenerated, recovered, and restored to reflect righteousness for the expansion and advancement of the kingdom of God and for experiencing the enjoyment of a kingdom lifestyle. So why don't we see how these two special guests were regenerated, recovered, and restored back to their former selves? So our first guest on the show today is a wonderful young woman, Mrs. Tamiko Mason. Hey, Justice, Zoom Justice, take it over from here. I'm done.
Well, as you can see, I'm here with the wonderful Mrs. Mason. All right.
Yes.
So
there's only one.
Marcellus is in the background, but yeah, she does have a first name. Her name is Tamiko Mason. It should be on there, right there. So Tamiko Mason, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Thank you.
So obviously, we all know that you had COVID, and I thought today, it's a little laid back, a little chill. So I thought we would just try and get to see what having COVID is like. And I know it's different for a lot of different people. Some people have more mild symptoms, some people have more severe symptoms. So what I want to know is, when was the first time you realized you had COVID?
Saturday, I want to say that was like the 10th of April. I felt like some drainage, but then I thought I had sinus problems, which I've had sinus issues in the past. But I do remember a year prior, a lady stating that she thought she had sinus problems, but found out it was COVID. So that Saturday night, I was like, okay, well, I usually go to church on Sunday as a part of the stream team. I said, no, I'm not going to go Sunday. And I talked with one of our other sisters, and we said, we're going to go get a COVID test Monday. And so Monday, I went to get the COVID test. That was April 12th. And then I got the results April 13th that I was positive.
Okay, so basically your sign was you had sinus congestion, and that was uncharacteristic because is it kind of like the flu? Have you ever had the flu? Is it kind of like having the flu?
I don't think I've ever had the flu, but I had bronchitis in 2019. And it wasn't the same because whatever it would drain down the back of, back of my neck. And it just kind of lodged at the top part of my chest. So it was different because when I had bronchitis, it was more of a breathing issue. But after a while, it did become a breathing issue with COVID.
All right. So I know Mr. Cornbread, we're all worried about him. So were you the only one in your household with COVID? Did he get it too, or?
No, Mr. Mason did not have COVID. He had been vaccinated. He had received his first vaccine February 12th, and his last was March 12th. So he was fully vaccinated. And I think that's probably why he didn't. He went and tested. The doctor told him to wait a week after I had tested to see if he had any symptoms or anything. And so when he tested negative.
Well, that's good news for all of our Mr. Cornbread fans out there.
Yes,
I am one of them.
yes. I'm his greatest fan. Yes.
Well, we'll see about that. We'll see.
Yeah.
So, we hear a lot about COVID in the news. We hear a lot about it. It's going around the world. It started in China and then it just spread all over the world. So how does it feel knowing that you had a virus that is associated with this global pandemic, something that everybody's saying is such a bad thing? How do you feel about that?
Well, from the initiation and when we found out, COVID 2020, and things, shut down, even though I didn't have COVID at that time or anything, I was just grateful to God that I was able to live through, this historical time. And I'm still grateful to God that even after having COVID, I've still lived through, and he's allowed me to defeat COVID. Whereas I know some people didn't, and some people that I love, are no longer with us, but I'm just grateful. I've been through the whole pandemic, just thinking about you can live in this historical time. There have been other historical times, but to live through a pandemic, and that's just been how I've been. I know it's been, hard and difficult, in different situations and different things like that, but that's been my stance, that I'm like, wow, God is allowing me to live through this, to see it, and then to survive it.
Right. So I know you can go on the internet and you can search up people talking about their experiences with COVID. And I don't know about you, but I don't really hear a lot about the symptoms being the worst part of it. Some people say that it's the mind playing a lot of part of it. And so what was your mindset like when you had COVID? Were you depressed? Were you positive? What was that like?
What was funny was I made the announcement because I told people I'm not going to be secretive about having COVID, because I want to make sure, if a person needs to stay away from me, I want to make sure that I'm also protecting other people. And so once I made that announcement, from that day that I received the diagnosis, there were so many people. I had siblings and family and church members and people that called me and texted me every day. Then I found out the same day that I was diagnosed, one of my dear friends and sisters in Christ had to go and have surgery. So I had so many other people, that were on my mind, that I really didn't have time to stop and think about, I've got COVID. I just took time and I rested. I really didn't do, a lot, but I had time to pray for other people. And that was like a main thing I had to check on. Then I found out somebody else went into the hospital, and then I found out my dear brother had COVID. So he was on quarantine with me. And I would text him every day to make sure that he was okay. So it was just so much that was going on that I couldn't really stop. I do remember one day looking up and I said, I look to the hills from which cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord. And then I think I went and took another nap. So as far as I had so many other people, I think about so many other people that I don't know, my mind didn't have time to really go places. The thought came, people have died of COVID, but I was like, I haven't ministered to everybody I need to minister to. I haven't prayed for everybody. I haven't finished all of the assignments God has for me. So no, it can't be the end. So that's where I was at.
So you mentioned that after you got your diagnosis, you basically put it out there saying that I got it. When you eventually came back from this experience, were you treated differently by people?
No, because most of the people that know me, that I'm around, they know I'm coming through the door, sanitizing, I'm coming through spraying. None of that has changed. I told somebody, and I do have people praying for me. I told them when I don't see a person with their mask on, I want to take their lips and fold it up around their nose. That's what I told somebody. So I'm just being totally honest. I said, because you are probably the person that caused us, those of us, to have the germs, spreading them. But like I said, people are praying for me. So I'm grateful for that. And I just have to say, my Pastor Brown, my lady Fran, I said, they called me, they prayed with me. And like I said, I have family, siblings, and my husband took such great care of me that I know a lot of things, that other people may go through. I didn't, have to experience that.
All right. Well, so I think my last question, if you could have gotten a vaccine with Mr. Mason, would you have gotten it?
I was on the list for the vaccine, and the very day that I received the positive result was the very day I was supposed to go and get my first vaccine. Wow. I had been one of the people that helped to set it up for several people. When they first started, it was 65 and older. Then you could be 50 and older. And since I'm 50 and older, then I was on that list. But the day that, like I said, the day of was the day that I was diagnosed with COVID. So no, I'm not opposed to vaccine. I was scheduled to have my vaccine, but so I'm still scheduled to have it. One of our dear brothers told me he's going to call me sometime today or tomorrow to let me know when I can get back on the schedule.
All right. Well, as always, Miss Mason, it is a pleasure. I was kind of surprised when they said Miss Mason got the virus because, you be spraying everything literally after I sprayed it. So
right. It's just habit. So yeah, I was very surprised myself, but I said, some people don't wear their mask. I remember talking to a gentleman in Walmart and he said, I don't believe in wearing a mask. I was like, you know what? Walmart doesn't ask you what they believe. They ask you to put on a mask when you come into their facility, because there are other people involved that you could be, the person. That's why I mask up. It's not, I don't believe, so that I'm protecting not just me, because it's not just about me, but protecting other people as well. And if other people did that, then we'd probably have a lot less COVID cases than we do right now.
Man, well, Lord, I believe, help my unbelief. All right? No? Okay.
No, you believe, and that's it.
That's right.
You believe. That's it. That's it.
Well, it's always a pleasure. Hopefully we can get you on the show again sometime in the future. But thank you, Mrs. Tamiko Mason.
Thank you, Brother Justice Brown. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
No problem.
So, as it turns out, this is Editing Justice, by the way. As it turns out, I don't know what happened to the footage of me welcoming Marcellus to the interview, or whatever you would call that. So, Thank you, Mrs. Mason. And here comes Marcellus. And here we are. Well, that was interesting. Well, let me be the first to tell you, welcome back to the Takeover.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to be back.
Are
Glad to be
you?
back. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
glad to be
good.
back. Glad to see you kept it rolling.
I did. I felt obligated to do that. So,
The show must go on.
yes. Well, it was more than that, you know. It's just, anyways, getting into the interview. You know, like we said, we wanted to bring you on the show because you have experience with COVID-19. You've had it. You've been infected with it. So, question is, when did you first realize you had it?
That's a good question. That's obviously why I've been gone. Um, I think I realized I was fishing in a tournament. Yes, I fish like that. Um, and that was April 10th, and I started feeling some symptoms that I thought was just a cold. I had a little itchy throat. My body started aching, started having body aches, and then so for over the next couple of days, the body aches didn't go away, and then I started getting a little congested. So I said, okay, I'm getting ready to go back to work. I can't go back to work with these symptoms without a doctor's note, so I need to either go to the doctor or get tested for COVID and prove that I don't have COVID. That was my intention, to prove that I don't have COVID, so I go back to work. Well, turns out that test proved otherwise, and I did have COVID. So, yeah, that was on April 13th that I actually was tested.
Okay. So, have you ever had the flu?
I have.
Is it like that?
Usually I get sick with a cold flu maybe once every couple years. Um, I'll tell you like this. For those people who say it's like the flu, there are some similarities, but you will know that you have COVID. Like you
So,
won't have to guess
okay.
because it's like the flu on steroids.
Like Dr. Fauci said. Did he say that?
I don't know if he said
Okay.
it, but if he did, boy, was he accurate. I can tell you that.
I think he did say that.
It was right on time.
Okay. So, I know you don't live alone. So were you the only person in your household that had COVID, or did you spread it to everybody else in there?
Um, no, I was able to isolate myself from everyone. We took precautions in that isolation, and nobody. That was my biggest fear, though, Justice. To be honest, my biggest fear was bringing that virus to my parents that are obviously older. Um, my mother had open heart surgery a few years ago, so I was really concerned about her being more vulnerable, and so I really wanted to stay away from them and everybody else. So I really isolated. I didn't, and that's to be perfectly honest with you, Justice. That's part of the mental challenge. And I'm an introvert, so I like being by myself. But being forced to be by yourself and not even have that where you seeing people, that's different. We're not used to that as social creatures, you know.
Yeah, and I kind of had the flip side to that. You know, you had it. You're the only one that had it. My brother had it. You know, I was in my parents' room, and they were talking about, well, we're gonna just have to deal with it. I'm like, well, you know, I'm scared that I'm gonna get it. You know, but obviously I'm not. Not to say that they're old, but I'm not old.
Oh
So
boy.
if you're, I'm so sorry, Miss Miller. I really but you know, this virus has been going on the whole world. It's been covered on the whole world. So you see news articles and things on cable talking about how bad this situation is. It's all over. It's spreading. Millions of people have died. Millions more are infected. What does it feel like having a virus that is associated with a global pandemic?
Man, I gotta tell you, and that's one of the reasons why I came here today. I wanted to be transparent about what really goes on. And I heard your interview with Mrs. Mason, and she's so spiritual. I can tell you, I wasn't all that spiritual especially in the beginning. Your question was, how does it feel to be dealing with something that's part of a global pandemic? Well, I got to tell you, when I got that positive test, I'll admit it, a tear immediately came down my eye, because the very first thing I thought about was my parents, like I mentioned, and the second thing I thought about is, you got something that's killed over 500,000 people in this country alone, and you have it, and that's sobering. That's dare I say scary, to know that you have something that potentially could take you out. And that's the difference. Like I said, we don't get the flu thinking we're gonna die from it. We don't. That thought doesn't cross your mind. But when you have COVID, you get these thoughts, and I'm telling you, I get it, man. I've been in church my whole entire life, and I get it. I understand a lot of things, but your mind is crucial to getting under control to deal with this, because my mind was going everywhere. I mean, I'm texting with my brother, and I'm like, I'm about to go to a hotel just to be by myself. I didn't want to be around. I was so fearful of being around people. That was my plan, which is not really a great plan, right? Well, how are you going to get the stuff you need if you sit in a hotel by yourself, right? Is it fair to even go to a hotel and potentially infect others? That doesn't seem fair. So, but that was just my mentality. I'm gonna get away from my family. But man, to have that in your mind as you're a part of this global, huge pandemic that is currently going on, not an old pandemic, but one that's current, it's trippy, man. It's mentally difficult.
Okay, and keeping on with that, what you mentioned, your mind was a big part of your experience with COVID. What was your mind like? What were you thinking about when you had this virus?
Well, the first thing, let me tell you, the first thing that happened that night I found out is I came up. I actually drove to the church's parking lot, and I sat in the parking lot for a minute. And after I left the clinic from getting tested, and I was talking to my family and everything, and I was everywhere. Like, my mind was just in a million places, right? I'm thinking about everything. I'm thinking about my truck I'm sitting in right now. How do I gotta disinfect my truck? You know what I'm saying? I'm thinking stuff like that. I keep Lysol in my truck. This is how much I've been protecting against this virus, So I have a can of Lysol sitting right in my truck door. So I'm spraying the truck like, dude, you still in the truck, and you still, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're not really helping, but that's how your mind just. And then so I got that night, I was taking these Vicks cough drops, right, to control, any cough. I didn't want to cough, right? Vicks cough drops are very strong. If anybody knows, like, I don't know, like 6-7 times stronger than like a Halls. And so that night, as soon as I got back in the house, I threw up, and all I could taste was these cough drops. So that was the last night that I took the cough drop, because I was like, okay, that was gross.
Mhm.
Okay, and so what happened, Justice, for the first 3 days, I spent the whole entire day trying to sleep, but I couldn't sleep. So my mind, when you're dealing with sleep deprivation, and I guess they call it Covert Insomnia, that some people get. Well, that's what I had. And I kid you not, y'all might think I'm lying, but I would go to sleep where I thought I was asleep, and then I would wake up, and I would look at my phone, and it would be the same time. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't have been asleep. I was literally almost hallucinating that I was asleep, because that's how bad I was trying to go to sleep. I'm watching literally the sun set and rise, and that's how I'm judging my day. And your eyes are hurting, so I'm literally, I mean, you're so fatigued that your eyes are tired. So I'm literally sitting there with my eyes closed trying to sleep. Let me tell you, I laid the correct way in the bed. That didn't work. I laid backwards in the bed. I laid across the bed. I laid on the floor next to the bed. I tried to sleep laying in the bathtub. I tried to sleep in a kneeling position. I was trying to do anything I could do to be comfortable in order to sleep, and it just wasn't working. So I was not, my body was just fighting the sleep. So it wasn't really fighting the virus. So it wasn't until I got smart and I remembered I had some medicine in my bag that was a nighttime medicine that had sleep aid in it. So it wasn't until I got smart and said, I take that. I'm asleep. Right. So then I remember I remember waking up, like, I think I slept for 5 hours after I took it. And I was like, but it felt like I was sleeping 15 hours because that's how bad I needed sleep. So, but I will just say that mentally not having that sleep was really, it was just bugging me out. And it was making me start having more thoughts that I shouldn't have been having about, do I need to go to the hospital? All those type of thoughts are coming in my mind now because I know people that have passed. We've had a funeral here at KHM from one of my fellow security team members that passed from this. And so inevitably I couldn't help but that going through my mind. So it was hard.
Yeah, and you and Miss Mason kind of have something in common. I know you're over our COVID task force, I guess you could call it, here at the church, and I know you do that at your job. What does it feel like? That's kind of ironic because you protecting all these people, and then you end up getting it. What does that feel like?
I felt terrible, man, because to be honest with you, I'm thinking, it's kind of like when we talked about a few weeks ago, when we talked about parents sometimes feeling guilt for things where they messed up with their children, and now the children, I felt like, man, I've been out here teaching everybody else, and here I am picking it up. And it was funny because Pastor Brown called me when he found out. It was a Wednesday, right before the afternoon service. He called me, and I didn't get the call because I was trying to sleep. And I texted him back and I said, I'm sorry I missed your call, but I didn't get it till right at noon, and I knew he had afternoon affirmation, so I wanted to, but he called me right after afternoon affirmations, and one of the things he said was, he said, it's the enemy. He said, you've been out here protecting all of us and all these people at work. And he said, then for you to get it, people can start to look at that, and then maybe they assume that maybe you don't know what you're talking about, or maybe you've been doing it wrong. And he said, that's how the enemy gets in and causes that fear. He was like, so you can't get into that fear, and you can't get into that belief, and so, because he basically read me, because that's what I was thinking. And so he prayed for me that day and really just came against it. And I would be sitting here lying if I told you I immediately felt better, because I didn't. But I did know that my pastor had prayed for me. You know what I'm saying? And that's important. Your covering, your spiritual leadership, the person that's watching out for your soul, praying for you, means a lot. It means a lot.
Yeah. So, you talk about the fear that you were going through, and you talked about, where your mind was going in all these different kind of places. So how did you overcome that fear, and how did you overcome your mind just telling you, all these different things?
Very, very good question. So like I said, the 13th, when I was diagnosed, was a Tuesday night. I didn't get diagnosed till 8:45 at night. And so I talked to Pastor on Wednesday. Those first three, that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, was really all that time I was trying to sleep, right? And I couldn't sleep. And so Friday, after I had taken the sleep aid, I remember, now mind you, I was trying to work from home through all this too. So I was taking virtual I attended a virtual conference Tuesday and Wednesdays. So these classes I were in, I was trying hard to pay attention, but it was, yeah, I don't know if I learned much. My job that hopefully is not listening to this. I learned something, man. I didn't, but it wasn't as much as I could have. But so finally, I got to Friday. Let me get to the point, because this is what's most important. What's most important is not the negative feelings that you're having. What's most important is how you get through it. Okay, and you never know, and this is why we got to stay connected and stay in the ship, because you never know which service is going to be. And I'm gonna try to do this without getting emotional, because it meant so much to me. But that Friday, I remember trying to sleep and being half awake, and then thinking like, oh, service is starting at 6:30, and it just so happened Pastor was Elder Williams was singing, and then as he concluded praise and worship, Pastor came up and he just kept praise and worship going, and it was just a longer praise and worship. And I remember trying to sing along with Pastor. And if you know anything about COVID and congestion, it constricts you, so your voice you're not able to project. And so I was trying to sing, and I was failing, but I was trying. I know, and it was like, now my mind and my heart was connected because of these songs. So now it's like what I know in my heart was taking over what I was thinking in my mind and those negative thoughts. And so Pastor, they had an extended praise and worship, and Pastor said, I'm going to give a little word, I'm going to take about 20 minutes. And so what he talked about was kingdom authority. And it was like a light bulb went off in my head. And it was like, he said something to the effect where we're not out here begging, right? We're taking authority over things. We're the kingdom. And so I was like, okay, kingdom authority. I got to take authority over this. And then, Justice, Pastor always says, don't check out. Don't check out. We got Minister Miles coming up. And I know a lot of people, they get, a certain way when it's time to get an offering. I know, but I'm not like that. I'm not like that. So I'm paying attention. I'm in there. And like I said, you never know. And Minister Miles said something so simple, Justice. He said, healing is the children's bread. So that means you can eat whenever, if you're a child of God. And I said, wait a minute. I can eat this healing whenever. I'm a child. No, I'm a child. I got seed in the ground. I'm a tither. I'm a giver. I give to my pastor. And it was like, wow. And you know what I did? I got my phone and I text my family. And I said, I just heard a word. Children is the healing's bread. Healing is the children's bread, and I can eat whenever. And then Pastor, he said, kingdom authority. And that's what I said, I'm healed. And I texted him the words I listened to, not right then, but right after that, I had turned my music on, because the praise and worship had built up something inside me. And I said, you know what? If I can just sing and I can open up my lungs. And so I turn on YouTube and I have a mix that comes up. And the first song was My Testimony by Marvin Sapp. And it's the extended version. It's like 10 and a half minutes. But the part that got me, and I'm telling, and then tears started coming through my eyes as I was listening to this song. He said, if you see me cry, it's just a sign that I'm still alive. And tears just start coming down my eyes, because I'm thinking I'm still alive. I got some scars, but I'm still alive. And then he said, I made it through. I'm still alive to say I made it through. I didn't lose. And that's what I texted. I made it through. I didn't lose. And it was then that I went from fighting to believing I was healed because I made it through. I was no longer saying I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it. I was saying I made it. And I'm telling you, Justice, I promise you, everybody, this is not an exaggeration. Before that day, everything I hadn't eaten. I hadn't eaten. I tried to eat some soup, maybe a little yogurt, but I didn't eat no food. And because every time I drank or ate something, I could hear it going through my system. I mean, like it felt like it was just struggling to get through all the congestion.
Mm.
And again, that was something that played with my mind. But that night when I heard this song, when I heard what Mr. Miles said, when I heard what Pastor said, when I heard the praise and worship, it was like if you ever had strong Velcro, it was like I could feel it was like Velcro in my chest ripping apart, and that congestion was tearing away. Now it didn't go away immediately, but I could feel the openness start to come, and I could take a deeper breath. And I was like, wow, it's because I said the right thing. And I text your father. And the next day, I didn't text him that night. I texted him the next day, and he told me, he was like, he basically said, you said it. He was like, I know it was a text, but you said it. And that's how I know you're going to be okay. He's like, you needed to say it and get it out there. And man, I listened to that song just as probably 10 more times. And I was in tears every time, but I just wanted to get it in my spirit that I made it through. And I know Marvin Sapp wrote that song after his wife passed. And so I know I know that it was coming from a place where he felt like he might not make it. And that's what I felt initially. And so it reached me in a different way. And I tell you, you got to get a word, and you never know when that word is coming or where it's coming from. And you need to hold on. That's why you got to stay in the ship. And that's why you got to have seed in the ground so you can claim those tithers' rights, those givers' rights. You can claim the devourer being rebuked. You can claim the windows of heaven blessing over because you've already sowed the seed. See, so once that changed, I ate the next day. I ate a meal the next day. And it didn't taste good because my taste buds was messed up, but I ate. And that's how I knew I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be fine.
So you went from, in a word, you went from playing defense to playing offense.
Okay, I like that. I like that word.
See
I
that?
like that word you did there. I see what you did there. But that's a great point. We forget sometimes we holding up our shield defensively. But the shield of faith ain't just there to hold up. Man, you got to swing that faith and then get your sword going. You know what I'm saying? And you're right. I was sitting there just cowered under my shield. And then that word sent me on the offensive.
Amen. Well, obviously we can kind of get a mental picture of how scary this might have been for you. But if you had to just choose, one part of that thing was just like, this is the most scariest experience out of this whole thing, what was it?
Well, if I had to pick one, Justice, I would say the scariest part was knowing that so many people had died from this. And you're talking about a guy who is carrying a few extra pounds. So that puts me in an underlying condition, situation. So that puts me at a higher risk. And knowing that in my mind, I was starting to check for every little hint of something wrong. So I was literally holding my breath and counting how long I could hold my breath and seeing if it changed in a few hours. And I said to myself, if I can't hold my breath for the same amount of time, then I'm going to the hospital. But that's that was the scariest part. And knowing people, I knew of some people simultaneously that were also fighting it, and some of them were in ICU.
Hmm.
And yeah, that's the scariest part.
Okay, so you did it. We talked about this in our beginning. You got through the test. You were healed. Now you're back at church, or
Amen.
you're back at work.
Amen.
Are people treating you differently?
I got to be honest, man. That was a big worry of mine. And unlike Miss Mason, I heard your interview with Mrs. Mason. I wasn't big on telling everybody. I told the people that needed to know, and the people I thought were in my circle that I knew would be praying. I didn't even tell all my family. Um,
Well, they know now. Pastor
yeah.
Brown.
Well, my family, plus my family was telling my family, and I didn't even know. But they didn't. They know that I'm private, but my family also believes in the power of prayer. So they were telling people of faith, right? And I need that. And just because I didn't want to tell them, that they know that I need that. And I got to give a shout out to my auntie, Elder Annette Price, and my baby sister Deborah. They text me right away, and she prayed for me, and it was just amazing. And they're not alone in that, but Sister Tamiko was texting me every day, to the point where I was like, please stop. I didn't say that to her.
Shame on
but I
you.
was thinking it.
Shame on you, Miss Mason. I'm sorry.
I was thinking it, Miss Mason. I ain't gonna lie, because it was hard to focus. I didn't want to pick up the phone and focus every time. It was like right when I was trying to go to sleep too. It was like, but sorry, Miss Mason. Thank you. That's my sister, and she was checking on me. Of course, my family, everybody. But when I got back to church, and one of the things I was concerned about was, will people think you had to play it now? Are you untouchable? People think, and I'm gonna be honest with you, there was a real, and you were there, so I talked about this young person before. I'm not gonna say her name, but I talked about her before, how much I appreciated something she said to me. But when I got there, first of all, I didn't know she knew. But the way she looked at me, I could tell that she knew. And then when I happened to be helping Pastor come in, and she called Pastor and said, I have a question. And I'm listening to Pastor has her on speakerphone. And he says, and the question was, is Marcellus out of quarantine? Should he be here? And so it let me know that there may be people that are wondering that. And then I was like, well, man, is Pastor wondering that? You know what I'm saying? Is Pastor concerned? Because, you know, rightfully so. So I went and put on gloves, in order to try to alleviate some of the concern that might be there. But it was just funny to see people's reaction. I think there's some apprehension at first, but for the most part, I think people understand that I wouldn't have come back if I wasn't cleared to do so.
Yeah, and you're over that too. So I think, at least for me, I have confidence that you're doing the right thing. Even, he kept me out of church for a couple weeks, so I know you can't be a hypocrite now. So I know many people out there have gotten vaccinated. Me personally, I'm a double vaxxer, so got the 2 shots in my arm. I remember you said that you're gonna let me take it first, and then you're gonna take it. So is there any regret now?
There's no regret, Justice, but the irony is, remember I told you on the 10th, I was in a fishing tournament? On the 10th is when I would have had an opportunity to get the vaccine. I was just waiting my turn in line. I didn't want to jump the line. That was my big thing. I want everybody to have an opportunity to get it. I don't want to take it from anybody. And not that I would have been, but that's what I felt like. So when I was eligible, it would have been on the 10th. I had a text message saying, go here, get this vaccine. And fortunately, I was out of town. But at that point, was I already infected? I don't know. So I don't know if that would have helped me then or not. But I will tell you, I will get the vaccine at some point. I'm going to wait a little bit because I know that sometimes after COVID, it affects those people harder. So I'm going to wait and a little bit, but I will get the vaccine at some point.
So you're not against it? You're just full for it? Everybody else should get it?
I believe everybody else should make their own decision.
Okay.
With proper understanding. But I can tell you, you don't want to have COVID. I can tell you that. So anything that can help you stay away from it and it's not going to hurt you. Now, if you have severe allergies, I know there's some things that prevent some people from getting it, severe allergies being one of them. Don't do it without your doctor's consent if you have those type of issues, but just think about it. What is the worst? The worst that can happen is it makes you a little sick. It's not a real big price to pay.
Well, amen. Well, I tell you what, that has been super informative from both you and Mrs. Mason. I think we all have a better understanding now of what the test looks like and what the healed looks like. So now we're going to talk about what you do after that. So thank you so much, Marcellus. And if you're watching, Miss Mason, I don't know if I thanked you. I think I will in a minute, though. But you may exit so I can get back in position.
Are you kicking me off my own seat?
Yes. Go.
Y'all see how I doing me on our own show?
Well, this is my show now because I took over the Takeover. All right. Wow. So I'm pretty sure you have a better understanding of what they went through and how they overcame it. And that really all has to do with testimony. They gave their testimonies. Now, we talk about testimony. What is a testimony? Well, in Words in Different Light, and I tell you, if Dr. Brown is watching this, you better be proud because we went to Words in Different Light 3 times so far. So kingdom testimony is when you tell your experience of salvation to make an impact on mankind, ordering and nurturing their yielding to Christ. Testimony is my personal account of my contact with the Lord Jesus that resulted in my life change, creating victorious efforts in the expansion and advancement of the kingdom of God and aids in experiencing the enjoyment of a kingdom lifestyle. So we had test, we had healed, and then we had testimony. You go through it, you get over it, and now you got to tell people, oh, Jesus, I felt that too. Marcellus is back. He felt it. Hallelujah. So, listen, tests are going to come. Things are going to come. Trials are going to come. But you have to look at yourself healed from whatever you're going through while you're in it. And once you get to that place where you're healed, you got to tell other people about it. Tell other people how you overcame that thing. Whatever it is, if it's COVID, if it's any kind of sickness, if it's financial, whatever it is. Make sure you let other people know. And with that, I'm done. So, as always, pray for me and Marcellus and Mrs. Mason. This isn't always easy, and we can touch on some very sensitive topics. So please pray for us. I need it. We all need prayer. So, and like this video, share it with your friends and subscribe. We're up to 61 subscribers, and I would like to see that number hit 100 by the end of the year, December 31st, 2021. I know where you live. So, you can always, and if you have any questions for me or Marcellus or whoever, you can reach us at khmsocialmedia@gmail.com, or you can always leave a comment down below of this video and we can have a civil discussion about it. Okay, we can do that. I'll do that for you. You're my friend. I'll do it for you. So, like I said at the beginning, we had a Big Mac award and it's the end. So the bottom bun. Usually the bottom bun is soggier, it has more juice in it, That might not be good if you're eating a Big Mac, but it is if you're consuming the word. So here it is. 1 Peter 1:6-7 is our bottom bun this week. And so it says in verse 6, so be truly glad. There is wonderful joy ahead, even though you must endure many trials for a little while. These trials will show you that your faith is genuine. It is being tested as fire tests and purifies gold, though your faith is far more precious than mere gold. So when your faith remains strong through many trials, it will bring you much praise and glory and honor on the day when Jesus Christ is revealed to the whole world. And I think that speaks for itself. All right. Well, thank you to Mrs. Mason, Mr. Miller, Zoom Justice, and I don't know where he went at the end there, but hopefully we get to see more Zoom Justice. All right. See you later. Bye.